Today, we are digging into a truly mind-bending idea from the ancient world. The idea that the biblical temple wasn't just a building, but a symbolic model of the entire universe. And let me tell you, once you see it, it changes how you read the whole story of the Bible. So, let's get into it. Everything kicks off with this really strange puzzle right at the end of the Bible in the book of Revelation. The grand finale of all creation isn't what you might expect. It's not a simple garden. Instead, it's this enormous, glittering city that comes down from heaven. And the weirdest part? Its design, its very architecture, is a direct echo of the ancient temple. So what's going on? Why a temple-shaped city? Okay, so here's how we're going to crack this thing open. First, we're going to look closer at that strange city-sized temple. Then we need to zoom out a bit and understand the idea of the cosmic mountain, which was a key symbol for all ancient temples. After that, we'll see how Israel put a radical twist on this idea and how that reveals the temple as a universe in miniature. And then finally, it's all going to click into place when we get to creation's grand finale. All right, first things first. Let's really dig into the blueprints of this wild vision, this temple city they call the New Jerusalem. The details here are just fascinating because they all point in one direction. The city is a perfect cube. Well, guess what? That's the exact shape of the Holy of Holies, the most sacred space inside the temple. It's built with gold and jewels. Yep, same materials as the sanctuary. You've got a river of life and the tree of life, which immediately makes you think of the Garden of Eden, considered the first sanctuary. But here's the real kicker. The text makes a point of saying there is no temple building anywhere inside it. So you see what's happening? The city doesn't have a temple. The city is the temple. The sacred space has exploded to swallow the whole city. Now, this isn't just some poetic flourish. It's a huge theological statement. And to really get it, we need to take a step back and understand what a temple even meant to people in the ancient world. And that leads us right to our second point, the cosmic mountain. Because to get what's so unique about Israel's temple, you first have to get the symbolic language that all their neighbors were speaking. You know, back in the ancient Near East, a temple was way more than just a place you went to worship. People saw it as a model of reality itself, a kind of symbolic map of the whole cosmos. It was understood to be this very special place, a cosmic center where the line between heaven and earth got incredibly thin. And they all kind of used this shared symbolic language to describe these places. Temples were cosmic mountains, like those famous ziggurats in Mesopotamia, literally built to try and touch the heavens. They were divine gardens, full of imagery of plants and waters symbolizing divine life and perfect order. They were seen as royal palaces for the gods, and inside you'd find a statue where the god was supposed to physically live. And they were gateways to heaven, basically portals where you could cross over into the divine realm. Okay, now for part 3. Israel is living in this world, they're using this same symbolic language, but they do something absolutely radical, something that changes the whole game. This is the absolute key difference. While every other nation had a cult statue, a physical idol they believed literally housed their god, Israel's temple had nothing. Absolutely nothing. The whole idea was that the God of Israel was so transcendent, he couldn't be contained or represented by some object made by human hands. In fact, the biblical authors argue that the only authorized image of God on this planet is humanity. What a revolutionary idea. But, and this is important, just because they ditched the idol didn't mean they threw out the whole playbook. Not at all. They totally embraced the rest of the symbolic system. Their temple was built on Mount Zion, their cosmic mountain. It was covered in carvings of flowers and trees, a symbolic Garden of Eden. And the Holy of Holies was God's throne room, with the Ark of the Covenant acting as his divine footstool. And all of this is building to the main event, the central idea of this whole explainer, that the temple wasn't just a house for God. It was a scale model of the entire cosmos. And look, this isn't just some modern theory we're reading back into the text. The Bible says it flat out. Psalm 78 right here says God built his sanctuary to be like the high heavens and like the earth. The design was completely intentional. It was a blueprint mirroring all of creation. And just look at how perfectly this mapping works. The outer court, with its huge bronze basin they literally called the sea, and an altar made of earth, well, that represented the land and seas, the whole earthly realm. Then you step inside to the holy place, and suddenly you're in the sky. The 7-branched lampstand, that stood for the celestial lights, the sun, moon, and the planets. And finally, when you pass through that final curtain into the Holy of Holies, It was like entering the highest heaven itself, the very throne room of God. It was a journey through the entire cosmos, all in miniature. So now, with all that in place, we can finally bring it all home. In this last section, we're going to solve the puzzle that we started with. Just think about what this means. If the temple is this perfect, miniature model of a well-ordered creation, then what happens when it's destroyed? Well, it's not just a national tragedy or an architectural loss, it's a cosmic catastrophe. It's a symbol for the whole world unraveling, being thrown back into chaos. So you can see the whole biblical story of sacred space unfolding in these three big steps. It starts with Eden, this perfect garden sanctuary where God and humanity live together. Then, after that's lost, humanity is tasked with building a sanctuary, the temple, which is a tiny model of that ideal reality. So the final step isn't just to rebuild the model one more time, it's for creation itself to finally become the real thing. And that, right there, is the answer to our question. The final vision of that temple city isn't about God building a new sacred house to replace the world. It's about the model, the microcosm, expanding to become the macrocosm. That perfect order, that divine presence that was once contained inside the temple walls, is now unleashed to fill up all of reality. To put it as simply as possible, the house of God expands until it fills all things. The temple doesn't go away, it becomes everything. Heaven and earth are no longer just overlapping in one tiny spot. They finally fully merge into one. And that leaves us with this one last, pretty challenging thought to chew on. This ancient way of seeing things suggests that the universe was never just a bunch of random, neutral stuff. It was always meant to be sacred architecture, the house of God. So the question it leaves for us is this: if that's true, how might that change the way we see the world around us, right here and right now?